Warning, if you do not like the color orange, this video is not for you.
So I just got back from the double feature event of the summer that everybody is talking about. What was it? I'm the only person who's done this. I'm the only person who's seen both of these movies in rapid succession. Wow. This is the first I'm hearing of this. But anyway, I did see both of these movies, and I actually do have thoughts on both, so let's just go jump right in with the movie that some people might have actually seen.
I have, on occasion, mentioned that I quite like Fury Road. I saw it in theaters when I was 15, and I hated it, but that guy also thought Captain America the Winter Soldier was like the most complex movie he'd ever seen, so I wouldn't exactly trust his thoughts on anything. Anywho, recently I've rewatched it multiple times, and like everyone else already knew, it slaps ridiculously hard. So when the news of a prequel based on Furiosa came to light, I was like, oh cool, that'll probably be pretty good. And I was right.
I had a great time watching this movie. It was action-packed, high-octane, pulse-pounding excitement you'd come to expect from the director of Babe. Pig. Pulse-pounding excitement you'd come to expect from the director of Babe Takes Manhattan. It manages to look incredible, although I'll put an asterisk next to that and come back to it later.
The sound design is just as good as in Fury Road, and this is just such a great universe to revisit. If you're a fan of good world building like I am, you'll definitely appreciate just how many gross little freaks they cram into this movie. Plus, we get to see a little bit more of the world that was established back in Fury Road. There's a few locations that are heard of and not seen in that movie, and in this movie, we actually get to see them, and I thought that was really neat. I appreciate how little these Mad Max movies hold your hand. If a guy's named Towhead or whatever, you just gotta kinda accept it and move on. I also really liked the two leads of this movie. Anya Taylor-Joy was great as Furiosa, maybe even a little better than Charlize Theron, and I think this honestly would have to be my favorite role of hers.
Better than Peach?
Someone out there might be asking. Also, Chris Hemsworth is a ton of fun as Dementus. For the first time in his career, we get to see him really acting differently from how he has been as Thor for the past 10 years. And I do really enjoy him, but I think it's clear that George Miller also enjoyed him, maybe a little too much. This movie has a lot of Dementus. Probably more than it has of Anya Taylor-Joy, and sometimes I just felt like he was on screen a bit more than I would have liked. In some cases, less is more, and I felt like I wasn't ever left wanting more of Dementus, as fun as he was. At its core, this movie is a revenge tale about Furiosa and Dementus, and while Dementus obviously did horrible things with her, I was kind of left scratching my head at certain decisions she made regarding it. It's not a spoiler if you've seen Fury Road, but obviously Furiosa ends up working with Immortan Joe, and the stuff his crew does, and the stuff Dementus' crew does, are both just as horrible. So it didn't necessarily make sense to me why Furiosa would align with Immortan Joe while having such deep-seated hatred for Dementus. I just think they could have shown more of what made the Citadel camp an upgrade from being with Dementus' crew. I just mentioned it briefly, but I also didn't love just how long it took for Anya Taylor-Joy to show up in the film. The first, third, maybe, features a child actress as Furiosa, and we follow her around, and while she was great, I almost feel like this told us a bit too much about her childhood. I think they could have left more of it up in the air for the audience to fill in the blanks on their own.
The first third of this movie felt just a bit meandering. It picks up the pace considerably in the back half, but I was still left feeling like I got more than I needed. In a movie like Fury Road, you're left with a lot of questions with no answers.
But with Furiosa, you get so many of those answers that I'm just a little bit less interested in returning to this universe. Also, while this movie does look visually spectacular, there is a small percentage of time, I'm talking single digits here, people, where the CGI looked kind of rough. This movie is a lot smoother feeling. I don't actually know if it had a higher frame rate or if it was the type of camera they were using, but it felt a lot like watching Avatar, where it's that very smooth visual style, and I just wasn't sure that fit for this universe.
The pacing in this movie is also just not that great. There are a lot of scenes where I felt like I got the gist and was ready for the scene to end, and on the other hand, a lot of scenes where I was like, oh hell yeah, this is about to be sick, and then it would cut away to something else.
I think if you cut out a lot of those young Furiosa scenes, you'd have a product with a bit more forward momentum, and one that doesn't feel as backloaded. All that stuff said, I think this movie is a ton of fun.
Apparently, it's not doing so hot at the box office, so please go see it. I mean, just because it's not as good as Fury Road doesn't mean it's not still a good movie on its own. And if you're looking for a good summer blockbuster, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better one than this. I'm also the world's only person to have seen the new Garfield movie. I'm gonna be transparent here. I really had to do some legwork to convince my girlfriend to come with me, and I did use my YouTube channel with 270 subs as blackmail. So I took her to the Alamo Draft House so we could get food and drinks as like a thank you for coming with me to see this stupid cat movie. And now I think she has to thank me because she cried twice during the Garfield movie.
If you haven't watched my last Garfield video, you may not know that I have a photographic memory of the first Bill Murray Garfield.
The best cat a guy could have. Have you tasted yourself lately?
And in that video, I was pretty vocal about thinking Bill Murray was actually a good choice for Garfield, and that Chris Pratt was a bad choice. And, I don't know, man, it's Garfield. He was fine. What do you want me to say? This movie actually was not half bad. In fact, I sorta liked it. It's not exactly a deep movie or anything, so I'm not gonna sit here and analyze the mise-en-scène of the fucking Orange Cat movie where Samuel L. Jackson plays his dad, but I will tell you that I had fun. The movie was actually surprisingly witty. I laughed out loud a few times, especially from pretty much everything Odie did. If you're an Odie diehard like myself, this movie provides you with fantastic Odie content.
And when it comes to Garfield himself, well, he's Garfield. I'd love to keep up appearances with my whole Garfield is a misunderstood masterpiece thing, but I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that there's all that much to this guy. He's orange, he's fat, he's lazy, he likes lasagna. If you've done all those things, then you've pretty much nailed the adaptation.
Oh, and John Arbuckle here is just as pathetic as he ever was. In fact, he might be a little more pathetic than the Breckin-Meyer version is. The worst part of this movie is the story. It's a generic, run-of-the-mill kids movies with all the typical tropes that you've come to expect. I think Garfield as a character is just fundamentally broken for the movies. Because when you make a movie, the characters have to do stuff, like they have to take action on something, or like physically move.
But Garfield at his core is a character that is about not moving. He is a boring, mundane, lazy cat, and that works really well in comic strips, but maybe not so much for a movie. When you make a movie about Garfield, he has to do stuff. But if he has to do stuff, he's not really spiritually Garfield. I call it the Garfield paradox. I'm going to be taking this theory to college campuses as soon as this video reaches 1 million views.
But in any case, the plot is stupid, the villain is annoying, and although I was surprised at how many funny jokes there are, there's plenty of not funny ones.
I wish this movie was a little bit worse than it was so I would have more to talk about, but it's okay. And Chris Pratt was okay, and I like that Ving Rhames played a bull, and that's all I really got. Also, while I'm on the subject of this orange fuck here, I did have a video planned to come out about Garfield, A Tale of Two Kitties, and it was a really fun video, and I was very proud of it, but it is stuck in YouTube's copyright hell, so maybe that'll be out one day, but if not, that might be the first entry into the Blank Production House vault. I hate Mondays. Anyway, be sure to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for movies that some people might have actually watched.
My poor nose!